Look, take this. There's no young, old, male, female, happy, unhappy that's not acceptable in with the fullness of us. It doesn't even matter if you're cooperative or uncooperative. You're part of, that's a plane going from the airport of Wellington. I'm walking by the side of the bay, and of course the aeroplane comes up the bay. What I mean is that the full richness of life includes the functional and the dysfunctional, those that contribute and those that take from. It's not that we have to reject all the time those that are to blame, those that are a cost, those that are not achieving some goal that we are purposing. We're not purposing, but rather we are experiencing the fullness of all that is from our very limited perspective, because our access to God's mind is restricted according to our DNA. Our access code determines what we unload, what we download, our picture of the universe that is presented, and that's what gives the material relevant to our lesson, our learning, our part of the class, which is right for us at the moment. And if we change that access code by some behavior, then it feeds back into the mind of God and downloads a different assortment of thoughts from God, and therefore a different reality starts to take place in this composite creation, this classroom that we are experiencing. You know, the person behind you starts to work on a different exercise. He's ahead of you, behind, or on something slightly different, or whatever, you know, whatever you like to think of it as. But the world is changing all the time because we are requiring a different lesson in the classroom, in the school, and therefore the school adjusts accordingly. It gets different books out the cupboard for us, you know, different programs crop up on the computer for us to exercise and play with. And creation adjusts all the time accordingly. So we are part of the input. It's not, sure, prayer will change the creation, simply again because you're impacting your access code, you are changing what is being downloaded from God, and you know, it's sending a message. I need a different lesson now. I've accomplished, or I've failed on that one. I need a different lesson to bring out something, whatever it is, and that comes down accordingly. Those possibilities now come, and your part of the material universe therefore starts to present differently, because you are exercising a certain impact on what God's thinking, and this universe is what God is thinking. So you think strongly something different because you're repeating a mantra, or you're demanding, or you're praying, or you're screaming out, or you're thinking and dreaming of, even you're visualizing, you're just hoping and wanting. You are starting to, well, you are the change in God's thinking. You are it. And the more you hold to that change, the more that change becomes, if you like, materialized or moved towards, and not necessarily quite as you ask. You know, so you might say, I need a solution to this, and you think it's money to buy a house, but it's not. A house becomes available because of a job that includes a house, say. You know, you don't need the money, you actually just needed the house, and that did meet your requirement, and that is what you pulled out of God's mind. It wasn't quite what you expected, but it was something that met your demand and was consistent with the demands of other things that were being put on the way creation was to be made, thought of by God at the minute, which of course depended on what all the other people were thinking. And I'm saying people, but I mean beings, I suppose. Yes, so we don't have youth meetings, we don't have ladies meetings or men's meetings, we don't have board meetings, those that are in and do the management and those that don't. It's not like that. We're not running some limited worldly conception of an organisation. The creation is not that. The creation is a fantastic general equilibrium and perhaps disequilibrium, but general interplay of enormous number of demands or different accesses, different ways of looking at God's creation, so that God can experience not just certainty, the fullness of knowing all, but also is experiencing what it's like to be uncertain. He's seeing your view of the universe and your friend's view, which is different, and the other guy's view, which is different still. And he's experiencing the fullness of an incomplete view as well, which of course he wouldn't have had on his own. He didn't want to be on his own. He wanted company. He wanted an interaction with beings that are sure in harmony with him, have the same values. They're not, going to tear his welfare to pieces, so to speak, or the welfare of his family. So we are being trained and prepared to be that sort of person, someone that is of harmonious values, so that everything in your freedom that you desire and purpose in heaven is no imposition on others. It's a joy, it's a pleasure, it's an interest, it's a fascination. You're a lovely flower as much as anyone else is a lovely flower, and you're not all the same. You're not all clones, as I've said before. So you have this infinite family that's growing, and we are in the image of God in that we're never satisfied, and dare I say it, God is never satisfied. He's infinite, but he's infinitely growing. Well, he's exponentially infinitely growing. There is no limit to the extraordinary person of God, and we are built in that image, although we're children. And we're therefore growing at a fantastic rate, but in a time dimension, I'm not sure if this is valid, but he's ahead of us. It may be he's not got that. He's decided, no, he wants equals to himself in heaven, different equals. And perhaps now we're not talking about an incomplete view of the complete whole, but many complete wholes. In other words, there are not just his ability to perhaps make many different types of universes with different dimensions, not just 3D or whatever, but also there are many sovereign souls, each one a member of the heavenly host, that are in some sense, I hesitate to say this, but equal in person as God is a person, and are therefore similarly creating universes and as he does, so that they too can meet him on a peer basis is the best thing, that, and that's okay, because they're in harmony and they love each other. There's no way they want any harm, any evil. Why? Because they've gone through this schooling that or something like, if you like, the schooling that we're experiencing here. They've gone through a schooling that was appropriate to bring them to that state, just as we are going through a schooling here in this dimension. So God is experiencing then a wonderful family, and it's his joy. It's the reason It's his reason for living. It's his reason for, in other words, his creation, his family, is his joy. You know, he looked on it and it was good. This is what I value. This is what is giving me the reason to create universes of universes of universes, and it's ever escalating, unlimited, fantastic beyond fantastic beyond fantastic. Life eternal we have in it. Thank you, wonderful one, dearest friend, thank you. Thank you, Heavenly Father. Oh yeah, I'm dictating this at, what's the time? 21:59, in other words 9:59 at night, nearly 10 o'clock at night. And it is now definitely dark, no question about it. And I'm walking along the water, the bay side, the one that, as I say, the aeroplanes fly in and out of if the wind's the way it is. And wind's behind me on my back. I'm facing the direction of the airport, walking along next to the little boats that are just on the side of the road here, between me and the water, which is 100 feet or so away, 200 feet away. It's lovely, although when I turn I'm going to be walking into a fairly cold wind. It's surprising. I mean, I know Wellington, New Zealand is known for its wind, but I'm just alive because I had such a good day at this conference. And one of the lovely things was I had discord with the chap who organises the whole conference, because apparently I was at, a youth group, and I wasn't the only one, there were 3 or 4 of us, and he came in very strongly and said, no, you're not supposed to be here, and we took this as a bit bossy, and one of the guys, who's known for being tricky anyway, was, recoiling against this, and there was discord, and I vanished from the discord. I didn't want there to be discord. And when I met John later, I obviously showed that I was totally friendly towards him. There's nothing between us, no problem. And he was likewise good. And I thought, how wonderful. And I think hopefully we both think the same thing, that, we had a discord on something, and it was difficult. And we've minimised collateral damage. We don't want it to spoil the relationship, neither of us. And we're full on with each other, just as if there were no discord. As if we actually want to prove with each other, but it's all right. Yeah, sure, there was a discord, there was a difference of opinion, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that we're right with each other still. And that's lovely, isn't it? I think that's lovely. Thank you, Heavenly Father.
And of course that background noise was the effect of the wind on the microphone of the phone. A bit chaotic, but I wasn't going to try and get rid of the noise or redo the recording, because it would have lost its reality then. It's followable, and I hope it's a blessing to you. Thank you, Dad.